Welcome back, everybody. This is Eric here from Moss Pawn and Gun. We have a very special field gun gripe for you today. We don't do these very often, but we have the Miculeks family down at the farm doing some shooting with us over the last couple of days, so we wanted to get them in on a gun gripe. And a subject matter that I thought was pretty important. I want to really talk about kind of the breakdown of the shooting family in our society. There's really not a better example of a shooting family than you guys. I mean, you're second generation in some case, and then you got your daughter involved. So tell us a little bit about how you got into shooting in general, how you all met. I know it's kind of an interesting story about how you two met. Tell us a little bit about what makes you tick and kind of how that whole thing involves you guys.
Well, as you say, we're basically Lena's third generation. My father was a gunsmith, a competitive shooter, so all my family is somehow related to the gun industry. My brother's a gunsmith. I've got nephews that are gunsmiths. Pretty much all of us growing up at some point took a little stint in my father's shop, if it was nothing but separating brass or cleaning up the shop. So we've all worked in a gun shop at one point in our life. Always grew up around guns and always competed. So what can I say? Jerry showed up and stayed around.
So he came in for a trigger job and left with a little more, huh?
Yeah, I went to Clark Custom Guns to get a trigger job, and then I met Kay, so I had to buy the whole package. So I got a very expensive trigger job, by the way. But anyway, it was worth it. I started to be a pro when I was 89 when I hired on with Smith & Wesson. So that's about the time I came across Kay. So it worked out really good for me. Kay was really into guns, of course, and that was a good deal. We'd go out shooting, and it was a good moment for both of us. So what can I say? I got married and lived happily ever after. Then Lena came along, and she started interest in shooting. Of course, being around gun owners, she was exposed to firearms at birth. So
I was literally born on a range because our house was on that range.
She was a home birth, by the way.
Yeah. So technically, I can say that.
We live on a range. So she was born on Shot Lane.
Yeah, no doubt. And we've got your husband Brock down here. Okay, now Brock, you're kind of handling some of Jerry's PR stuff, a little bit of video stuff for YouTube. Jerry does have a very involved YouTube channel that you guys should certainly check out. Brock helps out a lot with that. So what's your take on, kind of getting into this family, and you're kind of involved, and everything, and what's your take on it? I mean, are you a gun person, or were you a gun person?
Yeah, I was always a gun person, pretty much. Like a lot of people, interest kind of peaked when I was younger, playing video games and stuff, but eventually I became just a general enthusiast and met Lena not shortly after that, but a few years after that, before I could actually own a gun. But
outstanding.
I was not aware of this whole culture of guns, basically, that was in competition and everything like that. So I had no idea who Jerry was, which is probably a good thing because I probably would have crapped my pants.
Who's to say you didn't anyway? Well, where the whole gripe, I guess, kind of stems off here, and we'll get Chad to level in on this in a second here, is where that breakdown in society is, because you've got this wonderful family that, is such a just positive, movement than Second Amendment culture, where you've got a whole family of people that shoot and enjoy their Second Amendment rights, and they make a living at it, and make a living shooting, and that's really where the gripe is where we're in an instant gratification society, where we've got kids that want to sit behind the Xbox, they want to do their thing, and they don't want to work hard and really enjoy the craft, learn a craft. They want instant gratification. They don't want the hard work and dedication that it takes to really hone in on a craft. And I think that's where there's a huge lack of that in parenting. I think these days, parents just aren't taking the time to teach their kids things, to give them responsibility. And I think in this society, it's almost like they'd rather just take it away and not even have to go there, rather than give you little bits of responsibility. Give a little bit of an inch and see how they take it, and see how they react. And wouldn't you say that's the case with bringing up youngsters to shoot?
Well, obviously, and of course, you're hitting a nail on the head there. If you're going to have your children are going to be involved in the shooting sports in any way, they must be responsible. They must be responsible for safety, number one, and that is lacking in the families now. Like you say, it's easier to just say, okay, wait, don't touch it.
Sure.
And you know, if you have a gun in your home, that's you can't do that. That's sooner
You
or later
can't live in America and say don't touch a gun.
Right.
That's like having a big
It's-
red button that says "Do not push."
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly. Well, I
I mean,
wonder
if
what
you-
that does.
If I just told my son, don't touch that, and I don't explain it to him, and he's only 4, but he has an understanding of things even at that age. I mean, I expect a lot more out of him, which I shouldn't because of his age. But I mean, as parents, we always do. You expect more out of your kids, just any given age, pretty much. But I mean, that's one thing with me is safety in the house, and he knows that if he sees a gun, which he has as many toy guns in the house as I have real guns. So I mean,
I'm going to play devil's advocate on that in a moment.
but
Okay.
he knows that if there's a gun laying around, I mean, he knows his toys, but if there's one that looks real, he knows to point it out, basically, or say, Daddy, so he's already at that stage. But like you said, the breakdown of the shooting family in modern society, I mean, guns are not what they used to be in culture, just in general, in just American culture. I mean, used to, every household had guns, kids would ride to school with their hunting rifles, or even just their plinking rifles in the back of their cars.
Yep.
It was never a big thing. But then, as society, came, I guess, more to the modern age, you had all these mass shootings and things, and then the media being able to be spread out so easily, especially nowadays with all the social media networks. Things get out there a lot easier, there's all these stories, and plus the media becoming a lot more liberal, and anti-gun just in general is
Sure.
not helping the shooting culture. Somebody, like you said, instant gratification. They read one news headline and they have an opinion about that particular thing without looking into all the facts.
Yeah, they immediately think that just because one little negative thing, I mean, you got to think there's at this point, over 240 million gun owners in the U.S.?
It's quite a few.
Isn't that about right? So, I mean, I could be off on that statistic,
I think you're a little bit high, but I mean,
that's a lot of people that own firearms, and you got to think, out of that number of people, think about how many more people drive cars every day, drive recreational vehicles, drive whatever they do, and people get in car wrecks all the time, they kill each other. But see, you're not going to let that statistic keep you from driving a car on the road, are you? But you hear one little statistic about a gun accident, someone was cleaning a gun and shot someone. Okay, yes, that's tragic, it's horrible, it shouldn't happen. However, public opinion is often influenced heavily off of just a few isolated incidents. And I think
Certainly
that
is.
in the family realm, that's even a bigger scenario. I think that safety in the family is very important, obviously. You have a daughter on the way. You mentioned toy guns, and I personally have always been of the opinion that toy guns are a bad idea because it teaches kids bad habits.
well, yeah,
If you let it, but
well,
then they think they want to play and then shoot at you and play shoot.
I know,
Then you
it-
hand them a real gun, they go, "Look at me, Daddy,"
I
and
know,
they don't
it's
know.
hard. It's hard, like cowboys and Indians or whatever,
Sure.
playing cowboys in general. My son will always want to do that, and we've got the pop guns and stuff like that,
Sure.
the little snap caps and everything, and it's tough. I mean, what do? Do you say, oh well, you're not supposed to point guns at people? That's dangerous. But okay, well, I'm pointing this gun with a yellow or the orange tip, at somebody, and then you've got airsoft,
Sure.
paintball and whatnot. Those kind of things. It's hard to differentiate between the two at such a young age. It's like kids don't
Well,
understand.
it's like having a plastic knife.
Oh yeah,
Sure.
You had a play knife. We all had the Bowie sets with the plastic
Sure.
knives.
So it's a maturity
And you
thing.
go in the kitchen, there's a real butcher knife. You
Yeah.
knew that was a real butcher knife.
Sure.
And this is what I could go play with. So
Absolutely.
So what level you want to take that and break it down? There goes personal responsibility. You have to show them, well, this is a firearm, this is a toy,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah.
Basically, we
This is a
differentiate
knife, this is a
between
plastic knife.
the actual toy guns. The toy guns are silver or whatever the case may be. They've got the orange tip on
Yeah.
there. They're lightweight, and they're not in a holster.
Right.
All of my guns in the house are in a holster, usually at all times,
Sure.
unless they're in the safe. If they're out of the safe at all, somewhere put away, they're in a holster.
And see, I'm a little jaded. I've never had to deal with that. I've never had young children around me. I've got stepchildren that are, between 16 and 20 years old. So for me, I've been a little bit jaded in not having to deal with very young children and having guns around the house and everything. And I guess that is a good question. At what age should you consider getting your children into live guns? I mean, how do you integrate live firearms into everyday hanging out around the house, or not around the house, whether it's, I guess, dry firing exercise or not, but how do you get your kids into guns, and at what age should you?
I think that's really at parents' discretion because every kid matures at a different rate.
Sure. So
that's-
just maturity based.
That could be applied to anything: video games, toy guns, like you're saying, airsoft. If they have the mental capacity to differentiate that, then that's
That's
a
where you draw
completely
the line,
different
huh?
story. So
And
Sure.
everything that you mentioned earlier. like the accident, like if someone was cleaning their gun and accidentally shot someone, or your kid not being able to differentiate. That all of this can pretty much be solved by better educating everyone on it. The
Sure.
thing now, we're going to have more accidents with firearms the more that we try and seclude them, the more that we try and take them out of the public, the more that we try and push them away and ignore them, because then people that have them, they have less access to people that can teach them to safety and things like that. So I know for me, I've been around guns forever, so I've been constantly instilled with knowledge of them. So for me, especially in competition safety, that's one thing that I absolutely love about competition, is that competition shooters have the best gun safety.
Oh yeah.
Because
Well, I mean,
it's so strict rules when you go there that everything, like this is how it will happen.
It really
you can
instills
get-
that into
you can get
you.
disqualified for a breach of safety.
Oh,
I mean, like
yeah.
that.
Oh,
Boom,
you're
You
gone.
sweep
done.
that 180,
You're gone.
that's it. DQ.
Yep, you're gone.
Yeah, and you're not
Instant.
allowed to handle your gun outside of a safe area.
Sure.
That's safely pointed into a berm. You're not allowed to handle your handgun outside of the holster with magazines anywhere. Unless you're at the line under supervision
Sure.
of an RO. It's just constant safety.
If you were to actually do some research into accidents or injuries at ranges compared to soccer or baseball or anything of those sports, you'd be amazed.
Very, very low margin.
I was going to say those people probably get hit worse.
They
Well,
do.
hurt worse.
It is.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
a lot more injuries.
Especially football.
We
We don't
were-
walk away with concussions.
We were at a USPSA championship one year, and not far from us, they had a jump fest.
Yep.
Where they had, for a whole week, they did like 20,000 skydives. During that week, 4 guys died doing jumps. Hey, that's just
one
what
of them
happened.
was
Yep.
drunk and fell
Well,
in the
anyway,
kiddie pool and
it
drowned.
was 4 deaths related to this skydiving activity. Can you imagine if it would have been a 3-gun competition and 4 people died on the range
Oh, yeah.
from gunfire? What would have happened? But with these guys jumping out of planes and doing all this
Oh, yeah,
silliness
well,
and hitting the
I mean,
ground,
they don't want to regulate skydiving
it's
into
like,
oblivion.
yeah, that's
you
just
know?
what happens. So when you look at match safety, the standard of safety at a match is really a safe place to be. Like Brock was saying and Lena was saying, you just don't take a firearm out of a bag and just start walking around with it.
Sure.
Well, Lena brought up
So-
a good point earlier that I'd like to hit on. Like you said about guns and the number of guns and whatnot out there. But you think of the increased number of firearms that are out there, and firearms owners. Okay, back in the 50s, or actually, the early 50s to 60s, when more people were able to afford automobiles, and afford their own transportation. As that number increased, obviously the amount of accidents and deaths and whatnot, which are, of course, tragic, they did increase over time, with the increase in car ownership. So would you
Sure.
not expect the same out of the actual firearms that are out there? I mean, it's prone to happen. It is going to happen. There's no way of preventing it 100%.
Yeah.
And that's what our elected representatives, try to do. They try to regulate it into non-existence. They try to regulate safety 100%, which is never going to happen.
Well, I've got a good question that I think that is definitely worthy of being asked here. All right, say that you're a couple and you're married or whatever, you're doing your thing, and say you have young children, and say the husband or the wife is into shooting and they're really, really pro-gun, but say they have a spouse that isn't. Okay, maybe the spouse isn't quite so hot on the idea. We encounter that a lot in the gun world. When guy comes in, buys a gun, all right, all awesome, goes home, comes back 4 days later,
I need to say,
and has to sell it because mom said no. How do you deal with from your perspective, Kay? I mean, I know that from you being a lady. I mean, what if a husband's really into guns and the wife is relatively maybe not quite so pro-gun? How could he bring the wife around to get a little bit more in tune to?
The best thing you can do is send her someplace to have some training. And in most cases I've found it's not really a good idea for the husband to try to do the training
Yeah,
with his wife.
we noticed that in the
yeah,
shop.
Yeah, not a good idea. I've done for past 10 years, I've done something called Babes with Bullets camps. It's a 3-day camp, and Smith & Wesson sponsors them. I travel all over the country doing these.
Sure.
And sometime we have probably 50% of the ladies that come are extremely new. Some of them have never touched a gun before, and in 3 days, at the end of the 3 days, they shoot a little competition with us. They go that far in 3 days. And I tell them when they get there, for whatever reason they are there, and a lot of them are there just simply for this reason. They say, can we do a little round robin, why did you come? And a lot of the time the answer is, there's a gun in my house and I don't even know how to see if it's unloaded.
So you think some of it's just the fear of the unknown in the
Well,
household, where
certainly. Yeah.
they just don't know. It's not that they're anti-gun; they just haven't established an opinion because the right ambassador didn't come in and say, "Look, we know you might be a little off-put by this, but this is how it is." Once people understand something, they're very less chance they're going to be scared of it.
Well, probably. Well, but also they have a negative opinion about guns in general, just based on the media that's out there as well. I mean,
They are demonized.
So,
Of course.
you don't hear in the mainstream media about, a concealed carry permit holder, okay, saving the day. But you hear about, an accidental discharge in the house. Or
Yeah,
I
that
should
killed
say
a young
negligent-
child or
negligent
something.
discharge in the house, or some gang-related deal where a 2-year-old died. Whatever the case may be. You hear about that kind of thing, but you never hear the good things about guns out there. I mean, guns do save lives, and that's a standard fact, that no one hardly ever wants to actually, admit to.
Absolutely.
So that's one of the big pains in our society nowadays with social media and whatnot. All the negativity gets spread very quickly, but the positive aspect out there, it's a little slow going. That's why the organizations like NRA and all the grassroots organizations out there try to spread that good word out there.
Sure.
So
Well, there's a lot of folks that do not want to take their own personal responsibility
Sure.
to protect themselves.
lazy or
They would
whatever the case
rather
may
say,
be.
look,
Yeah.
the police department will take care of what I need.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, they're 5 minutes away.
Yeah, really.
You have to
Yeah,
wait
go
a
ahead
minute
and
before.
say
No.
I would never, I don't know, for me to let someone else risk their life for mine when I am perfectly capable of protecting myself, I could not stand that. The guilt if that person was hurt trying to help me when I am totally capable and have the rights and every means to do it, I couldn't live with myself. I don't know how people do that.
Yeah, nor do I.
I couldn't.
I have something to kind of add. Being a Christian myself, which this can be applied to anybody, but I believe it's my responsibility as a husband to Lena to protect her. And if I don't have the means to do that, then I'm not doing my job. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's very important to get, if you have a wife that's anti-gun or a girlfriend or whatever, if you're planning on actually engaging them in marriage, it's crucial to get them okay with that, I would say, because it's your responsibility, and I think
Well,
that's
that's
just a
extremely
general.
crucial, because I mean that kind of disagreement can ruin a relationship.
Oh, yeah,
And, I mean,
absolutely, that's
I
it.
have friends that way. That one simple little thing, not necessarily like rolling the toilet paper the wrong way, whatever. But I mean, something very simple. I mean, caused the breakup of that relationship when. Something very simple like just educating them on taking them to range or whatever, and just showing them the good things about firearms ownership in general and just gun rights in general.
Yeah, I agree.
And like-
It's just a matter of education. It's just like if you handed me a chainsaw, just run in and say, "Here, Kay, go cut the tree down." Guess what? I don't know how to run this thing. I'm going to be scared of it.
Sure.
But and that's the same with a gun. If the woman's in the house and she hasn't had any education,
Or the education that they had, which we see with a lot of women,
Oh.
was like their great uncle took them out in the backyard and handed them like a 12 gauge shotgun and said, "Here you go,"
Yeah.
with nothing. No, didn't say anything else to them. So their first experience ever was terrible.
Or they
We
told him to
see-
shoot a 500 Magnum.
Yeah,
and
and then they
because
laugh
the
at it
recoil
when
or whatever.
we see so many women totally put off by that because
I see all
we
those
wanted to.
videos. That peeves me. When I
Yeah,
see
yeah,
all
there's
the
so many videos of them getting hit in the face.
Yeah, and I-
Skinny girls shooting the
exactly.
Desert Eagles or the 4.6s,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
500s.
I just
So-
want to see the idiot that put that gun in her hand.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Well, I guess Jerry and I are going to have to work up an upside down 500 mag shot.
Ooh, that'd be
I'll
a
let
tough
you
one.
go first.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know how brave I am with that
Throw
one.
that thing in the chin and whip around.
Well,
It
I know
probably
we've
would.
kind of gotten off the subject of the family and the shooting, but I tell you that there is a silver lining here. I know in the 3-gun competitions we go to, we are seeing more and more family units coming to the matches.
Good.
I can think of a good 4 families
Yep.
that are now really, everyone in the family is into it. It's
Excellent.
not just, one. And the big thing is getting the wife into it. Because I'm sure, as you know, if the wife says no, it's pretty hard to.
Yeah, if
to
mama
make it
ain't happy,
happen.
nobody's happy.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
If you get the woman,
Yeah.
you've got the whole family.
So.
So
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point. Well, that certainly, I think, draws a stark contrast from everything we've talked about. I guess where the gripe really lies is these values are being lost in our society. I think that with the exchange of information and how social media and things like YouTube, like we're doing right now, can spread ideas around to everybody, I think it really helps spread the stories of people like the Miculeks family. And I think that it should be just a really good inspiration for people to just see what they can aspire to. And then it honestly inspires me, and I've been a shooter since I was 6 years old. I've been shooting guns since I was 6 years old. And, I got lucky. The family unit I was involved with was pro-gun and into guns, and I was exposed to guns. And I didn't start on pellet guns. I had pellet guns, but I started mainly on 22s as a young person. So, not everyone is as lucky to have a supporting family that wants to support their firearms training and firearms ownership in that light. So it's very refreshing. So anybody that is watching this video, I would ask for them to take something away from it, from their experiences, and be able to apply that to your family units so that you can become more responsible citizenry, even if it's just to protect your family, protect your belongings, protect your livelihood. Even if you don't compete, it may not even be about that. It's just about bringing firearms into the home in a positive way that everyone can relate to them and make it happen and no one get hurt and it just give you that level of security. And that's what the Second Amendment's for. Personal responsibility, I think, is the big cornerstone of this whole thing. So I definitely want to thank the Miculeks family for hanging out with us today. They're our first kind of celebrity, Gun Gripe guests, okay? But I know this is rather informal, but I wanted to make this video because I felt that it was important to bring their story to you guys because, they are definitely a role model for the shooting family unit, the whole family unit in the shooting world.
Oh, yeah. Well, like Jerry had a good comment off camera earlier, if you have a gun in your house or whatever and you don't know how to use it, it's the same thing as having a tool that you bought and you just put it away and you've never used it before. So the idea is to actually get out there, train yourself on it, but not only that, if you have the gun in your house, your whole family should actually know how to use that gun at any given time. So that's, the beauty of this situation. The entire family are pro shooters, and I wouldn't want to get anywhere near their house. I know that.
No way.
But anyways, Jerry has a very, very awesome YouTube page. You guys really need to go check it out. It's www.miculeks.com, okay? And you can find it all over the web. Just check out his YouTube page. He's got some great content on there, growing every day. So
absolutely. They're doing a great job with their YouTube content, guys. They got a lot of cool stuff going on. Also, check out the description box below for all the links. You can subscribe to them. Guys, thanks for watching this video. I know it was a little bit long. Thank y'all for coming out. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
It's been a really fun couple of days shooting with you guys, and I feel really honored to, kind of getting a glimpse into what makes y'all tick, and it's really refreshing.
Oh yeah.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.
All right. Thanks. We'll see y'all next time. Thanks for watching.
Take it easy.